Hey y'all, and good now whenever and wherever this finds you. Well, today I'm playing doorman. I've been with my Maydow group for a few days watching videos from 2 or 3 years ago, and it's amazing that they're looking to the future and they're firmly set in today's paradigm. And I want to build a bridge from them to the future as a doorman. So it's with them that I'll build the bridge, but Christopher here is the place that we want to end up. So let's listen to what Christopher has to say about looking forward.
So I've been digging pretty hard into solar, wind, and batteries lately, and I think I'm focusing on it because it's so important to the future of humanity. And I'm not talking about any one reason alone. This is beyond any activism argument. Because when you focus on the next paradigm, which involves overcapacity, zero marginal cost, abundant energy, and unlocking multiple abundances by converging free and abundant energy with something else. It's a pretty powerful thought. There's no shortage of ideas, and even building a prototype is easy, but it's scaling. Scaling is the part that keeps many people back, and I think they live in a certain paradigm that doesn't converge with abundance. What do we take from this kind of thought? And can we see any bridges that are not only evidence, but have people waiting there to hold your hand and cross the bridge? So I just watched a video. It involved virtual power plants. So I had mentioned this in a couple of videos previously, but it's technically a distributed large battery by combining a number of small batteries together in a virtual software environment. Tesla in California, the state of California, are creating incentives to create the biggest virtual battery in the world in California. But some data has come out because there's some pretty impressive things going on. So we were talking about grid scale batteries, that can produce 2, 3, 4 megawatt hours. But when you can combine a million small ones, we're talking that'd probably be 1.4 gigawatt hours, which is needed because you can tap it, or the way Tesla does it is Tesla is the middleman between the battery and utility. So then Tesla pays the customer for their electricity, and then Tesla sells it to the grid or to the utility for that peak rate, but cheaper than what the peaker plants would charge them. It's like not a lot of people are catching on to this. And just so the video I watched showed 300 kilowatt hours were purchased by Tesla from one individual in 2022. This is just one anecdote. There's thousands of these. He or she was paid over $500 for the 300 kilowatts. I can't remember the specific amount, but it wasn't $2 per kilowatt, but it was over 1.5 for sure. That's evidence to how much utilities are charging from these top peaker plants, because that business model wouldn't make sense if there were losses somewhere. So we do know the government's involved, but that's with the purchase of the batteries, not the energy transactions. So it's just hardcore evidence that the state subsidizes peaker plant energy transactions. And that is not okay with me, because that's the opposite of abundance. It looks like abundance, but what it is an agreement to make sure the peak is handled, but at an extreme cost. So it's not abundance. It's just making sure the brownouts. When we talk about abundance, it's overcapacity. So if we're seeing evidence of people able to participate in virtual power plants and make that kind of money over a year just from this one use of their multi-use system, this will accelerate payouts. And I know TC and I are very passionate about that. And we have plans. So now we're starting to see competition coming in the battery sector, in the energy storage piece specifically, which is great. Warren Buffett owns NV Energy in Nevada. He also owns 10% of BYD, which is an electric vehicle manufacturer out in China, and they're spreading across the world. But BYD is the only company out there that has positive profit margins on the sale of electric vehicles other than Tesla. Every other company is selling at a loss. People need to realize that. And then when Tesla just cut their prices because they wanted to fit within the incentive scheme that the government created before they switched it to benefit them. But Tesla's dropped all their prices so that you, me, everyone that wants a Tesla would be eligible for that $7,500 credit if all the materials come from approved countries and it's manufactured in North America. So there's stipulations. But what happened then is an inadvertent price war started amongst all automobile companies. Just not just EV companies, but all companies. Because they know exactly what's happening now. And any company that is not producing EVs at a profitable rate will accelerate their losses. But at the same time, when they produce EVs, it cannibalizes their internal combustion engine business. So they're doubling their losses. And you have to put it together that there's going to be a lot of consolidation, mergers and acquisitions, and bankruptcies. The only other option is bailout by the governments. And Japan's first, because Toyota is Honda screwed. You know, they're just too late to the game. So these partnerships that they're forming now will probably become mergers in the future. And if they're unable to spin some kind of company off of what the dying pieces of this legacy industry, I'm sure some companies would love to have those employees. You know, like I always thought it would be by 2035, but now I think it might even be before 2030 that a lot of this starts to happen. And there's no safe legacy automobile company out there because you have to double your losses to even compete now. There was so ChatGPT, the AI battle has started, and I think this is going to become one of the most important pieces, integral to convergence moving forward. I saw this other video about how a narrow version of AI is being used to increase how good hearing aids work for you. If you're able to affect someone's hearing with AI, now we're starting to see all of the convergence is starting to happen that are now becoming portable. Because they've been commercialized for a while, and then literally you just have to converge it with some code, and it can do massive things. This is kind of across the board tonight, but narrow AI is three things. You got computational power, algorithm, data. Computational power and the algorithms are pretty much a dime a dozen now. The data is what counts. So being able to have AIs plug into APIs, being able to have open source mechanisms, have their sieves open and people be able to put their data into it. How is that going to work? You know, like would an Amazon or Walmart or Google allow the data they collect to also be collected by an open source sieve. That's how they make their money off of this data. So my belief is that people will start doing this just like how Napster happened. You remember, they're going to start saying, I want this data to go here. And the open source, if it's a decentralized co-op, why wouldn't it work like WikiLeaks that way? There's always a path. So it's like, oh, that won't happen because, and I'm like, well, there's adjacent precedents. So you always got to think about those. What's the next step in that line? That some changes are going to be really difficult for some people to understand because they think it's locked within some kind of law paradigm or policy paradigm or economic paradigm, and it's not. And it will never be. That's just what we believe now because we couldn't do it any better before now. But we have the tools now that didn't exist even 2 years ago that changed the entire argument, like ChatGPT, like the Megapack battery that is a 4 megawatt hour battery that's made out of lithium. Well, these are probably NMC, nickel manganese cobalt, but soon it'll be LFP, which is lithium iron phosphate. Those batteries are way cheaper. So the people who have been predicting that these things will happen fast and scale and S curves, decreases, and convergences, I tend to pay attention to the perspective and not say that that's fanciful or that won't happen because of policy or the powers that be don't want that to happen. People would say things like that to me. And I'd be like, just watch it. Just keep an eye on the data. That's all I tell people. Just keep an eye on it. Don't let it slip away because then you won't be prepared for when it pulls the rug on, because that's called disruptive stress. And it's going to hit government, bureaus, academia, Google search, all these different things that we hold power in now are going to get the rug pulled on them. And we don't even, it's like, no, that'll never happen. Oh no, we can't govern ourselves. It's not about governing the group. It's about getting to know yourself. And if we can provide a base for the next socioeconomic evolution that lifts a majority of the pressures that the current socioeconomy puts on people, all of the arguments that you connect to this paradigm are moot, because that means you're not thinking forward.
He was talking about building a base and a new paradigm. And I believe that the DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, is the new way of organizing our society and moving away from the representative government of top-down bureaucracy and have a bottom-up individual empowerment of shared ideas and abilities working together to move in the direction of agreement. So I hope that in my encounters with the group, I came back because I wanted to learn how to make a DAO. And it turns out that Sheraton's working on it, and he's agreed to teach me what he knows. So I'm going to begin to learn how to make a DAO. So I'm so excited, and I really hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you down the road.